So with the 2016 season coming to an end, I figured I would do a behind the scenes video of my display and setup. So here's kind of like the overall daytime view. I'm going to start out here in the front at my front gates and kind of give you an idea of what I did here. So what I did on the gates is I took 1/2 inch PVC, drilled holes every 2 inches, and these clips you see here are ones that I printed. Here's a picture of one a little more close up. So they kind of just snap onto my gate, and then the PVC snaps right in. It's worked really, really well. The wires go through the back, have had no issues. It's been up all year. Then I have all my Boscoyo wreaths, my Boscoyo stars that are all attached basically with zip ties. The way it's wired up here is there's a section here, kind of point over here, it goes up and it goes over. And then there's a second section here that's the opposite direction, goes up and over. And actually this one starts over here in the corner where the controller is. And then the wreath, the star, and the next wreath are all connected to the same exact data line connection. So that's kind of the front. It's all set up all the way across. It's pretty much the same. So if we go down here, kind of show you some of the actual behind the scenes on what's connecting it and setting it all up. My son-in-law riding my son's new quad that he's had for 4 days and already broke his arm on. Joy to the world. Anyway, let's go over here. And so this is the front command center, as I call it, that's running these gates. What I have here, I did things a little bit differently. Kind of get out of the sun. There we go. So here's the power supply. So what I did is I have basically 2 power supplies. You can see here I have data coming in. These are all data connections that interconnect to the power supplies, and then back over here they connect into the pigtails out to the props. So kind of little thing, these are what's called speak-on connectors. There's kind of a image of one. Basically it's 4 ports, and I used Cat 5 cable, and then these connect into my controller, which I'll show you here in a second. Let me get this out of the way. So before I go any further, I wanted to stop because there's a few things in the video when I was out in the yard that I was remiss in mentioning. When I was talking about the speak-on connectors and its 4 connectors, one of the things that I was remiss in mentioning is I only have actually 3 data lines coming in. So the very top 1, 2, 3, at the very top, these are all data lines coming in from my F16 controller. And the 4th one is ground, to ensure that I have a common ground between my power supply on the controller and the power supplies that are actually running the pixels. I just wanted to take a moment and clarify that, just in case there was any question about where's the common ground. It's there, it's on the bottom, and it's part of the actual connection from my controller. So here's my F16. You'll notice here that on the controller, I'm actually not running any power off of my boards at all. Everything is just data. The data connects in and back over to the power supply. And then over here, I just have a very small power supply running the actual controller. A little different than what other people have done, but it worked really well. As a matter of fact, I'll walk over here, all the way over there. There's actually a line running from here all the way to the other side of my property over there, which is about 45 feet. Just data, controlling the front gate up there. No issues at all. And I'll walk over and show you over there. I have a single power supply and how that's set up. So this is how I set up my single power supply boxes. Basically just the power supply and then the power distribution board from Dave Pitts over at pixelcontrollers.com. And then again, you can see the speak-on connectors coming in. That's just data. Again, that line from the controller to here, just data, is about 45 feet. Worked really well, I will say. For the Boscoyo wreath and star and the other one, when all 3 of them connected, I actually did have to do power injection, which I didn't have to do over there, but that wasn't really a big deal. Worked out well. Let me pause this and I'll go show you what I call central command that's really running everything you see on the house, including the mega tree, the matrix, etc., etc. So I want to talk. So the house, what I did here. So along the front of my house, the pixels are all set on 1/2 inch PVC. The little brackets that you see there coming off of my roof underneath the shingles are essentially this, which is basically a bracket I found at Home Depot for like 60 cents and then bent up, painted it black, and then had rubber coating on the bottom to make sure that it would stick underneath the shingle. The pixels are connected to the PVC using this little clip that I printed. Get it out of my pocket here. So it's basically this little clip. The square pixel goes in there, a little hole right there for the, and then the zip tie goes onto the PVC. Now for the ridgeline, it was a little bit different. So I used the same clips to connect it to the PVC, but to hold it up the ridgeline, I printed these, which basically this is a failed print, but it slides underneath it, the PVC pipe goes on top of it, and it worked really well to cover my entire ridgeline all the way around. For the windows, I also printed the clips, but I didn't paint the PVC because I wanted it to blend into the window frame. And then there are basically these little clips that I hot glued to the side of my house. I know some people say don't hot glue into stucco, but for me, I didn't care because they're clear and they're going to be up all year anyway. All of that comes over here to what I call the central command on the house. So here I have my F16 up top that's running basically everything you see on the roof. All the ridge lines, the front of the house, the matrix, the chroma flakes, the stars, etc., etc. It's all coming off of right here. Again, Speakon connectors go into my power supply boxes, same as out front, and then the pigtails out from there up to the roof. Next year, I think I'm going to change this so I don't have such a rat nest of power wires. Maybe do something a little different. I don't know. But again, single power supply box, single. Another F16. This one is running my Mega Tree, which I'll walk over to in a second. And at the very bottom is where my Pi player is, the network switch, and my FM transmitter. My Tune 2 matrix, that's going away next year. I didn't like it at all. And then my Mega Tree, again, the data lines coming from over here in front of the house. My dogs are trying to kill people. And then that comes over into another dual power supply that runs the Mega Tree. Pretty simple setup. On my Mega Tree, it's just basically a PVC ring. Next year it's going to be EMT. I just didn't have time to get a bender this year. You also notice the Boscoyo strips that I'm using. I didn't cut them, only because next year I want this tree to be about another 6 feet taller. So I wanted to make sure I had the strips available. Right now it's 60 pixels up, 60 pixels down, and then 16 across. So that's pretty much my setup. If I missed anything or anybody has any questions, definitely let me know. I'd be happy to get in more detail as to anything else that you're curious about. That was everything out in my yard. I just wanted to take a few minutes and kind of talk about the behind the scenes at a computer level. So this is Xlights. For those who haven't seen it, it's xlights.org. It's a free piece of software, extremely powerful. The support community is great. I have nothing but great things to say about it. Not knocking the other systems, but this is definitely my preference. I'm not going to spend a lot of time about Xlights. There's a million other videos, as others have mentioned out there. But I am going to talk about a few things that are really cool. And that's really the custom model. So you see on my front gate here, I have this dog. There's a tool in here that you can actually generate a custom model, which is basically just taking a short video of it, and it tracks the pixels where they're at and then creates a model for you. Secondary way is, if you see here on my horse head, is using Excel, which is really easy. You can see here, using Excel, you just take a picture, put it in the background, and then just number your pixels all the way around. Gives you a really nice layout for your custom model while you're sequencing, and you got to get an idea and perspective of what's going on. A couple other things I want to note is when you use like a wreath, kind of pay attention to the starting node. So if I go to the node layout here, here's one. And actually one is here on the outside. When I wired mine up, one's here, and one's actually over here on this. So in my controller, I had to actually reverse the strings on all these. So kind of pay attention to the stars are the same way, where the starting node is, so that you have an idea when you set yours up to make sure that it's correct. Quick note there. Along with that, kind of go over to my FPP setup. It's very basic. You can see here my controller 1, I'm using 20 universes. You'll notice that my universe size is 510, not 512, which is which a lot of common people use. I went with 510 only because it's visible by 3, and I have pixels and pixels only via unicast, and then the IP address of my controllers. And then again, second controller, I'm using 8 universes. And if I come over here to my trees, you can see here is just under E131, just my 8 universes, and then the corresponding string ports. Kind of another note on that, you'll notice in my Xlights that I jumped from channel 10,092 to 10,201. That's simply because that's the start of the next universe on the next controller. Starting next year, I believe that you'll be able to upload automatically, so you probably won't have to do all the manual setup I did this year, which would be very, very cool. Kind of quick note there. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. There's a million other videos out there. But I'm going to take some time, especially for those who are new, like I was this year. Excel's your friend. Set up an Excel spreadsheet. Map everything that's out in your yard. Map where it's set up. You can use Xlights to kind of give you a visual representation even before you buy your first controller, your first prop, your first light, doesn't really matter. You can set it all up, play with it, get a feel for it, get a look for it, and then start going from there and then kind of mapping it over to Excel on the different, your pixels, how many are actually on the output. You can see here, I actually labeled each one of these was actually 48 pixels for each snowflake, but I'm only using one output. So 144 on the output, and then calculate the approximate amps, approximate watts, so that I make sure that I'm not fully overloading my power supplies. Here, like you can see here, I'm almost at the peak. And then it maps over to where it is. This is the old IP address, so I ended up putting everything on its own network. This is when it was still on my network. Type of node, and then really important, cable code. So label all your cables. You're going to have, as you saw in my rat's nest, hundreds of cables out in the yard. When you take it down, you need to be able to put it back up. Label each one of them. So that's kind of the information really on a computer level. Just high level. If you have any questions, like I said, when I was out in the yard, let me know. I'd be happy to get in further detail. Thanks and have a great day.